Hi everybody, I am outside the studio today for the fourth part of what to do with your stash because I want you to think about getting outside of the studio both physically and mentally. And the first couple of posts I talked about my experiences with my stash and mostly other people's stash in the past few years. The fact that it seems like more and more stuff is going out there to be dealt with in some way. And in the last post, I talked about taking an inventory. So, since I posted that, maybe you've gone in and you've looked at all your stuff with a critical eye. Maybe you've done a little bit of organizing. That wasn't important, but it was important for you to think about what you have, how much, and is there anything that requires some special circumstance? Okay, so with that information in mind, you might have looked at all of your collections and said, you know what, I'm just not using this much of it. Or maybe I don't even use those tools anymore. Or maybe the stuff just doesn't give me the thrill it did before and you want to get rid of it now. That's great. Maybe you don't, you're still using it, but at least you know what you have and how to use it more efficiently in the future. So, since I started posting these topics, a few people have gotten in touch with me and said, you know what, I'm a young artist and I wish I had access to some of these great, huge stashes because I'm starting out and I don't have all this stuff and I don't know where to get it. And that could be an issue, especially if you are in a rural area. What do? You can't go to the local thrift store because there just aren't any. So instead of starting with the usual sort of large scale places to disperse the collection, the stash, all those art supplies, I'm going to start with the very small scale, and that's the person to person, artist to artist kind of thing. So maybe you know some people already. Maybe you belong to some sort of creative guild. That's great. Get the word out that you have XYZ and you want to think about where it's going to go. Maybe you don't belong to a guild. That's totally fine. You can ask around. The first thing to do is tell everybody that you know. And you can do this on social media if you want, but I think it's better if you have conversations with people. You know, I have a whole closet full of, and I'm thinking about what to do with it. Do you know of anybody who might be interested in using any of it? Okay, so start with your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues, that sort of thing. Okay, and that's the easy part, talking to people that you don't know. The hard part is talking to people that you don't know. And here's what I'm going to suggest as an important next step. Instead of talking to all the big organizations, I want you to go out and find the individual people. But you're going to be very careful about how you do it. What I want you to do is be on the lookout for places or stores where there are lots of creative people hanging out, selling or displaying their stuff. So maybe you have a local farmers market. Maybe there are some high school craft fairs around, or other kinds of school or church or something craft fairs. Maybe you live in a city and there are some fancier art and craft fairs. Maybe you have a local fine craft gallery or something like that, okay? Places where things are making, places where people are making things by hand because that's what you want. You want those kind of people. And the thing is, you don't necessarily want to be looking for people that do exactly what you do because you never know what people are going to want to do with your stuff. Lots and lots of times, the most interesting artwork is done by people who do unusual things with typical materials. Okay, so don't go into it with the preconceived notion that if I'm a quilter and I have a closet full of fabric, I need to find other quilters. Just go out there and look for people who are using fabric in any way possible. Okay, that's just an example. Whatever your particular art supply is, look for people who are just using that thing. Okay, so then what you want to do is look at the stuff, look at the person, ask. Okay, just see if they look friendly. 99.9% of the time, they're going to be friendly. Go to art gallery openings where the artists are there in person and Start a conversation and say, you know, I have a lot of insert type of stuff there. And say, do you use it? Would you like some more free stuff? Do you know anybody who would? I really suggest working locally. So if you live in a rural area, that might be a larger area than somebody that works in a metropolitan area. So, you know, it might be 5 miles, it might be 50 miles, it might be 100 miles. But the point is, you want to start with person to person. Often you're going to say, or you're going to hear, no, I don't want that, or no, I don't use that. And then ask, do you know somebody who might? Or do you know of an organization who is looking for stuff like this? You're going to get a lot of answers all over the board. But the thing is, you are going to start to get a list of people and places who use the kinds of things that you have. So that person-to-person thing is far more useful. It takes more time, and maybe it's a little scary actually talking to real people, real artists. I know we're a little scary, but we're not actually. So try it, okay? Get the word out, and that means that you have to talk to people that you don't know. But the thing is, you want to look for those people that are already using the stuff that you have, okay? So do that. Be on the lookout for all of those places where there's stuff that's being made by hand. That's where you want to go. Okay. At the same time, look at all of the usual places. And here's the thing. A lot of places that used to take art supplies no longer do. So it used to be one of the standard things to say, well, you know, just call the schools and there's going to be a teacher who's going to want it. Often school systems do not want donated supplies. Now, if you're of a certain age, like me, you remember back in the day when all the moms and dads were expected to make something for the bake sale, and then that was a money raiser. Nobody does that anymore because nobody wants homemade food. Same sort of thing is the case in a lot of school systems. Nobody wants opened packages of whatever. Okay, they're thinking about safety, they're thinking about chemicals, they're thinking about whatever it is. And so they don't want your half-used whatever it is. Okay, they want brand new, and often they have very specific needs, and so what they're looking for is donations of unopened packages of stuff. And, you know, tough to say, they want money. So you can approach people in schools, you can approach teachers, but don't be surprised these days if they say no. Okay, so there are a lot of other places that you could ask also. If you have a university in your area, if you have a community college in your area and they have an arts or theatrical department, go ahead and call the main office and say, do you know of anybody who takes donations of art supplies? And those larger institutions may say, no, we do not, for the same reasons that the K through 12 schools will not. But ask also, are there any student clubs? And is there a contact person for that? Because sometimes the smaller clubs, they will take stuff for whatever reason. You know, that's something to think about. Again, you have to go in and talk to individual people. Sometimes you get a person in a departmental office and they sort of make the global decision, no, we're not going to take your stuff. But there are people there in that organization who would be willing to take it, or they know a place that it could go. So if at all possible, try and find a person that you can talk to and leave a phone message, do an email, something like that. Reach out. That person-to-person thing is important. Theatrical groups, that's another good place. Sometimes you have smaller local groups and they're looking for supplies to do costumes, to do stage backgrounds, all kinds of things like that. So those smaller organizations are a good place. And again, you might get in touch with somebody through somebody that you know, or a church group or something like that. It's all about finding the right person. A lot of cities, towns, counties will have some public arts organization. You could ask them if they take donations, or if they know someplace or of some other organization that does take donations. And again, often these places, they want unopened packages, but it's getting to be pretty common where some of the smaller organizations will have like maker spaces or maker packages where people can come in and get free art supplies. And so that's something new that we're seeing a lot of, is these maker spaces. Sometimes these are not-for-profit organizations and sometimes they are businesses. But take a look in your area and see if there are any places like that who would take, 50 boxes of quilting fabric or 6 different kinds of bottles of open glue. They might, but then again, they might not. So think about it, okay? Look for it, think about it. Art guilds are good. And the thing is, no matter what it is that you do, remember also that other people use the kinds of things that you use in a different way that you do. So if you're a quilter, don't just reach out to the art guilds, reach out to the painters, reach out to the clay people, reach out to whatever it is, because often those people are looking for something or they know somebody who is. So spread the word to all the different guilds in your area. And a good key to getting information about the local art guilds is the local art organizations, because they will have contact information for a lot of those guilds, especially the bigger ones. Another thing is libraries and senior citizen centers. Some libraries have art programs for young people and for adults, and senior citizen groups or centers, they will have craft days and stuff like that, and sometimes they need the supplies, but sometimes they just know people who are going to use those supplies. So it's important to think about every age group, no matter what age you are or the age of the people around you. There are people that are other ages that want the stuff that you have. So again, it's just a matter of finding them. And here's something that you may not have thought about: art supply stores. So I'm not talking about the big ones, the national chains, but the local stores, the smaller ones. Often if you are in a particular kind of creative endeavor, let's say that you're into making railroad landscapes. Usually there are very specialized, smaller, locally owned stores that deal with the supplies for those kinds of things. Sometimes there are clubs associated with those stores, and sometimes the stores will have take-back policies, or they will have they will accept donations of things that they disperse out to programs for people who are just starting out in whatever kind of creative endeavor they support. So don't forget about the smaller art supply stores. The mom and pop stores, the locally owned, they're generally a good source of information about local people who are looking for things. And they may have a program themselves, okay? So if you're thinking about the Michaels or the Hobby Lobbies, often those are not going to be a good place because the employees there, they may be involved in something locally in their community, but then again, most likely they're not. That's kind of a blanket statement, and I could be wrong there. But often when I've gone and asked in those stores, I've gotten nothing but blank stares and I don't know. So the local stores are often fantastic sources of information. So I've given you lots of places to go. Hopefully you will find something. So once you've got it, you've got all these lists of maybe names or organizations. That's great. What you need to do is have your inventory and all the stuff that you've got, and now you can sort of mix and match where you want certain things to go, or at least know people who are interested in your stuff. Maybe you're going to get rid of some of it now. Maybe it's far in the future, but you have an idea of where it can go. So here's the tricky thing. The work doesn't end here. When you have that list of contact information or that list of places that's looking for the goodies that you've got, you have to keep that list updated. So for me, I take an inventory every year. I'm not asking you to do that, but you should keep in mind if you have a lot of work that you do where you're constantly buying or acquiring new things and your collection is changing, remember too, organizations, artists, all these different sorts of people that are taking stuff, their needs, their emphases, they change also. So somebody that's going to take your stuff today might not want your stuff next year. So once you have that inventory and that contact list, it doesn't stop there. You have to keep that list updated. And I know it sounds like a crappy thing because you have to go out and talk to people again and you have to call them up or email. I'd say at least every 18 months and say, are you still interested in getting boxes of XYZ? Do you need books about whatever? Are you still looking for tools like this? And they'll say, yeah. Or maybe they'll say, no, but I know someone who is. Okay, so that's an important thing. We have to keep up with this. It's a never ending thing. Okay, so it's not tough, it's fun thinking about all our stuff and all the great things that are going to happen to it. And I hope that you've gotten some ideas about what you can do to reach out to people. And you know, one of the great things about doing this is you might find that you meet some amazing people that do wonderful, wacky, beautiful things that you never even knew existed out there in the world. So be generous with your collections. Be generous with your supplies, not only to yourself, but to other people. And good luck in all of your creative endeavors. Until next time, bye-bye.